December 10th, 2012. We'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. All members are present at 7 p.m. The invocation will be offered by Fire Chief Danny Thomas. The pledges will be led by Police Chief Scott Niffen. If you'll please rise.
Let us pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you today and thank you for the many blessings in our life. Lord, we look around and we are so blessed. We ask that you put your hand on these proceedings as we come before you and do business as a community. Lord, put your hand on those that are less fortunate in need in this holiday season. And we ask all this in your gracious name. Amen.
Okay, I'd just like to mention to you, just because I feel like I have to, you'll notice people are dressed a little more casually than we usually do, and it isn't a sign of disrespect, but we are actually doing a fundraiser for the Roanoke Food Pantry, and it's one of those fundraisers where you pay a certain amount of money to be able to dress casually, and that's what we're doing. So I just want you to be aware of that, and if anybody chooses to donate, I'm sure we can accept that as well. There's things out in the lobby. Okay, did we have any citizen presentations? Okay. The first item.
I don't think he signed up. Did you want to speak? Sure.
Okay, if you want, do you want to just, you need to give Shannon a form. And I'm going to jump to the consent agenda and then we'll come right back to you. Okay? So all matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the council and will be enacted by one motion. It will not be a separate discussion unless it is desired, then that item will have to be removed from the consent agenda. And the consent agenda includes the minutes as adjusted that you have in front of you. Okay?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as amended at the dais.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. It's unanimous. Well, that got us through 12, 17 items on our agenda. That's very nice. Okay.
Get to the serious business here.
I'll just wait for this person for a second.
Stephen Gutierrez.
Okay, Mr. Gutierrez.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for the way that I'm dressed, but I did have my clothes all ironed out, and that's what I get for giving the boys a bath before I showed up. It didn't work out, so that's my excuse, and I'm going to stick to it. I appreciate you allowing me to come up here. I'm relatively new to the area. My family and I have moved down from Montana here about a year ago. This month, actually, December 28th is when we signed and moved into our home. Beautiful neighborhood. We live in the Highlands of Trophy Club. We've come to appreciate and have grown to see what this part of America has to offer. I'm from Southern California, so the Pledge of Allegiance and stuff like that, those things have gone by the wayside, and I'm a Marine. At least I used to be about 50 pounds about 15 years ago, so I really appreciate that kind of stuff. One thing that I have appreciated about our neighborhood is how people have come together. And about a month ago, we were standing on Morgan Street talking with a good friend of ours, and inadvertently, through our conversation, she kind of lost focus, and she backed up, and her vehicle was right next to her. And so as she was backing up, a vehicle sped by her and literally almost ran her over. I ran over and I grabbed her. It was almost like one of those Faces of Death movie things, if you're familiar with those movies back in the 80s or 70s or whenever they were. So immediately I started thinking about Lisa and her family and her two little girls and my sons. I have three boys that are 6, 5, and 2. And really on our street, we live on Kingsford, speeding is not really an issue. But on the main arteries that go through our subdivision in the Highlands of Trophy Club, the Broadway, Morgan, and Kensington, speeding is an issue in my opinion. So I opted to get a petition going together in an effort to reduce the speed limit in the residential area only in our subdivisions to 20 mile an hour. So my eldest son and I, Matthew, went out knocking on doors a couple days later, and immediately we got about 71 signatures that first day. We had a couple other people who joined our effort, got about 22 signatures, and then my boy and I went out again yesterday and got an additional 25 or so. So I have a petition with about 118 signatures on it in favor of lowering the residential speed limits in our neighborhood to 20 mile an hour.
Okay, thank you. If you will give that to Shannon, we are really not permitted to discuss it at this point.
Sure.
Because it's not on the agenda. I
Okay.
will tell you there are restrictions as to how much you can do on that. But I'm sure the chief can meet with you and explain what the requirements are.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
So-
Thank you.
And please give your contact information to Shannon as well. You guys will.
Mayor, certainly in the meantime, I'm sure the chief and I will visit and have a stronger presence out in that particular area
Good
until
idea.
we can find out and make a recommendation to you.
Thank you.
May I make a comment?
I don't know. No, sorry. I don't think they can do 25. Okay? Thank you. All right. Next item is to convene into a public hearing at 7:08. Public hearing regarding a request for a zoning change from R12 single-family residential to neighborhood services and asks for an approximate 11.603 acres located at 800 Trophy Club Drive at the southwest corner of the roundabout, Trophy Lake Drive and Trophy Club intersection. Director Huggins?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Push this on, see if I can get back on here. Had it for a minute. I'm just not very good at this stuff. It comes to. It works when you're sitting here.
He's a man.
There it is.
Okay,
Don't
thank
breathe.
you. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. This is a rezoning request by the church at Trophy Lakes, located at 800, right there, 800 Trophy Club Drive, which is at the roundabout, the Trophy Club Drive and Trophy Lake Drive intersection. This rezoning request is the first step by the church to take the property from a legal non-conforming use to a conforming use. And let me explain what that means. The church was originally built in 1985 prior to incorporation. So had the town been incorporated prior to the church being built, the church would have been required to do three things. They would have been required to be properly zoned for a church. They would have been required to be platted and produce infrastructure documents, engineering documents for the infrastructure, and they would have been required to submit a site plan. None of that was done because the town wasn't a town yet and those rules didn't apply. So when the town incorporated, the church became a legal, non-conforming use. Legal because it had the right to be there because it was there first. Non-conforming because the zoning and platting do not meet the town's rules for zoning and platting. Property can stay legal, non-conforming until the property owner decides to change the footprint of the building, and that's where we are today. The church is planning to remodel and expand the existing building. Because of that, they now need to come into conformance with the town's ordinances, and the first step is zoning the use of the property. The property is currently used as a church and a daycare, so in looking at the zoning ordinance, are those uses allowed in R12 zoning? And you can see that R12 zoning allows a church as a conditional use, does not allow a daycare or kindergarten, whereas Neighborhood Services, NS, Neighborhood Services, does allow a church, allows a daycare, and allows a primary school. And the church, with this remodel and expansion, wishes to add a private school for kindergarten through grade 3 to their campus. And all of these uses are allowed in Neighborhood Services. As I mentioned, this is the first step. In the near future, you will see a preliminary plat, a final plat, and a site plan for this property as well. As required by ordinance, a notice of public hearing for this zoning change request was published in the local newspaper. Also, property owners within 200 feet of the church property were notified. 34 property owners received notification. Earlier today, Miss Elizabeth Bath, who lives at 3 Cimarron Drive, did call me and stated that she was opposed to expanding the church. She was opposed to the zoning change because she didn't want to see the church expand, allowing the addition of a school, as she feels there's already too much traffic on Village Trail and the roundabout. That is the only person who has called in opposition. Otherwise, I haven't had any opposed or in favor of the 34 notified and of the public hearing put in the newspaper. The applicant, Shane Harris, with RGA Architects, is present to answer any questions you may have. Shane, you might just raise your hand. Let him know you're here. Staff recommends approval, as this will bring the property into conformance with the town's current zoning regulations. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request this past Thursday, December 6th, and Chairman Hill is present to give a report on the Planning and Zoning Commission's consideration of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Hill?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My report is somewhat repetitive of what Carolyn covered, in that we both were in there doing this just last week. The Planning and Zoning Commission met December 6, 2012 to consider a request for a zoning change from R12 single-family residential to NS Neighborhood Services for an approximate 11.603 acres located at 800 Trophy Club Drive at the southwest corner of the roundabout Trophy Club Lake Drive and Trophy Club Drive intersection, which is the site of the church at Trophy Lakes. As Ms. Huckins explained, the church was built on this tract in 1985 prior to the incorporation of the town of Trophy Club. Following the incorporation of the town, the property was included in the town zoning ordinance as a legal non-conforming use. The church is planning to remodel and expand the existing building, and as a consequence of that, they now need to conform to the town's ordinances. Because of the planned uses, the best zoning category for reclassification is NS Neighborhood Service, which allows a church, allows a daycare, and allows a primary school. Following a public hearing and due consideration of the applicant's request, a motion to recommend approval of rezoning for the subject tract to NS Neighborhood Service carried by a vote of 6 in favor and 1 opposed on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon, do we have anyone sign up to speak in the public hearing?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right, then I will close the public hearing at 7:15 and reconvene into regular session. Item number 19, consider and take appropriate action regarding an ordinance of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, amending ordinance number 2000-06 P&Z of the town, the comprehensive zoning ordinance, and amending the official zoning map of the town by changing the zoning on an approximate 11.603 acre tract of land located at 800 Trophy Club Drive from R12 Single Family Residential to Neighborhood Services NS, providing for publication, providing a penalty not to exceed the sum of $2,000 for each offense, and a separate offense shall be deemed committed each day during or on which a violation occurs or continues, and I'm providing an effective date. Okay. We don't need anything. You've given us everything.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Entertain a motion.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the rezoning request for, is it 800 Trophy Club Drive,
Yes.
as submitted.
Okay. Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
This may be a premature question. If they're gonna add a school K through 3, and it sounds like the concern of one citizen at least was traffic. Do we know what hours that school will operate? Do we know what months that school will operate?
Well, they're here to speak for
Okay.
themselves. I think I do, but we'll let them speak.
Let them answer. Sure, that's no problem.
Good evening. My name's Shane Harris with RGA Architects. Pastor John Bunn is here as well, if something I can't answer. But the intent is to operate a typical school year, September through June. Typical school hours, 8 to 3.
So if, since we're not talking about a school tonight, we're just talking about rezoning, any request to build a school, then we're going to go through that process and talk about traffic and all that at that time?
With the site plan,
Okay.
Just so I understand, at the time we talk about the site plan, though, do you have because it's an allowed use, there is no opportunity to discuss whether to approve of the school?
That's what I'm afraid of. Yeah.
that's right. You're approving tonight the zoning which will allow a school then on that site. But what you'll see with the site plan is the site itself, how the traffic flows through the site. Just like with Beck Elementary or Medlin, when you review the site plans for those schools, you'll be able to ask them questions about the traffic flow. And that's what staff is working with them right now, is to make sure that the fire lanes meet code and there's enough parking for the uses, that there will be a good traffic flow. It is a good size site. They do have a lot of land and area to expand, and so we should be able to meet most of the ordinances. I'll tell you, for instance, one thing you will see as a variance request is the steeple. The steeple is much taller than allowed by NS zoning, and so they will be asking for a variance for that. And there may be a few other things with the site plan that would factor in at that point.
Okay.
All of those issues will be coming before the council and the P&Z.
But the only thing that we will have the opportunity to say yes or no on is a variance. The school, this is the moment that you would decide yes or no on a school. Because once we approve,
School would be
and I'm
allowed.
not disagreeing, I'm just saying, once we approve this zoning, we have approved having the school there. So, we just need to be clear.
Right.
If I heard you correctly, though, Carolyn, if we had been incorporated when that church was built, what we're changing it to is what it would have been at that time, right?
Most likely, yes, sir. Either that or a PD.
Which is the way the way the zoning ordinances work, the laws. This is the only opportunity to discuss whether or not there could be a school there. So, any other
I guess
questions?
just to add, and I'll let Caroline answer the question. Stephen kind of filled me in here, but so the audience knows, is there some other areas in town that have the same designation zoned?
Yes, sir. There is right next door to Lakeview Elementary School. There is a daycare. I believe it's Mary Hill.
Mary Hill.
Mary Hill. That's designated NS.
And the property by
and-
the Methodist
And
Church
the Methodist
is also.
Church is also correct.
Yeah, yes, sir. The Methodist Church as well.
So they would have the ability to add further care or education, should they wish.
Yes.
It's a logical thing, and I think the traffic does make people nervous.
Yeah.
That's definitely an issue. But any other questions?
I was just going to clarify exactly the way that the property is being used right now. It's being used as a church, for one. Is there a daycare there? There's a daycare there. Is there a kindergarten there? There's a kindergarten. Do you have a primary school, grades 1 through 3? Thank you.
There you go.
So what would be an expected enrollment, if that's a fair question?
Usually, our projected enrollment right now is 1 class per grade per year.
And what do you have
12.
now?
10 to 12.
Total enrollment numbers?
Do you have like 1 class per grade per year now through 3rd grade?
Yes.
So what we're talking about really is not a significant change in traffic from what you're doing today?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll just have room to do it.
Yeah,
This one being so
okay.
That's
cramped.
correct.
Got it.
We need private schools.
All right.
That
Answer?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. All those in favor? Okay. We're good.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Okay. Item number 20. Oh, okay. Consider and take appropriate action regarding a request for approval of a final plat for Neighborhood 5, Phase 2E, 6.631 acres, located in the Highlands at Trophy Club R. Allen Survey, abstract number 5 and 17. Applicant Jacobs on behalf of High Trophy Development. And then the A part of that is consider and take appropriate action regarding a subdividers agreement between the town and High Trophy Development for Neighborhood 5, Phase 2E, and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute necessary documents. Ms. Huggins?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Neighborhood 5, Phase 2E is located on the north side of Trophy Club Drive, between Highlands Drive and Trophy Park Drive. So this is Highlands Drive, this is Trophy Park Drive. Neighborhood 5, 2E is along the north side of Trophy Club Drive. Plat consists of 18 residential lots. 4 are lot type 1 lots and 14 are lot type 2 lots. A preliminary plat was approved on December 18th, 2006, and the final plat conforms to the preliminary plat. This plat is also in conformance with the subdivision rules and regulations, the zoning ordinance, and PD 27. The engineering documents have been reviewed and approved by the town engineer. Staff does recommend approval of this final plat. Kyle Salzman with Jacobs Engineering is present, representing the applicant, and is available to answer any questions you may have. On November 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request, and Chairman Hill is present this evening to give the details of their recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Hill?
The Planning and Zoning Commission met on November 15, 2012, pardon me, to consider a request for approval of a final plat for Neighborhood 5, Phase 2E, 6.631 acres, located in the Highlands at Trophy Club, R. Allen Survey, abstracts number 5 and 17. Following staff presentation of the property location and its current status, a motion to approve the final plat carried by a vote of 6 in favor, none opposed. 1 commissioner was in approved absence.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the subdividers agreement and final plat for Neighborhood 5, Phase 2E.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and by Councilman Rose, seconded by Councilman Tiffany. Is there any discussion?
I have a quick question. In the key, there is a code SWE, which is a sidewalk easement. In the diagram, I think it just shows WE. Are we talking about the same thing? I'm looking right above block 48 there.
Pardon me, which diagram?
I'm looking above block 48, and I'm on the final plat. Be above, upper left-hand side.
Right, I see a,
5-foot WE.
yes, council member, the 5-foot WE is a wall easement.
Okay. Okay, I just didn't find that in the code.
Good catch.
Okay, then, so if that's a wall easement that continues on down that street to the corner?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Then the other question I had is for the utility easements on the property, who owns those? Does the town own the utility easement? Do they go to the PID or do they go to someone else?
The easement itself belongs to the lot. The right to exist in that easement is dictated by your franchise agreement. It's a public utility easement, so your franchise utility providers that are allowed to exist in the town can exist in that easement and will. The town could, if they had a need, occupy some of that space for something that we don't know anything about. But what would most likely be there is cable, telecommunications, electricity.
Okay, thank you.
Franchise, private utility providers.
And I have a question. Does this property have sidewalks all the way across? Or all?
I believe the sidewalks are in front of these lots and not out on the slip road. Actually, let me check before I say that.
Yeah.
Yes, it has sidewalks across the front of the lots.
And down Highland Drive as well? Highlands Drive,
Right,
on the side?
yes, on the frontage, on the portion of the lots that fronts, or that is adjacent to Trophy Club Drive, there's sidewalks, and down Highlands Drive as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 21, discuss and take appropriate action regarding a professional services agreement between the town and Friesen Nichols for engineering services related to the Fresh Meadow and Timber Ridge drainage projects, and authorizing the town manager or his designee to execute all necessary documents. Mr. Sly?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a natural progression, step 2 of getting a project physically completed. These 2 projects represent 2 of the projects that have been identified by Friesen Nichols in our storm drainage master plan. And the same 2 projects that we had identified during the budgeting process to begin addressing this year. This particular action would simply engage Friesen Nichols, who's already done the preliminary studies, to start the design and engineering process, to carry it right out to bidding and getting a contract let to actually get the project done. Lots of work that needs to be done. We've done a lot of coordination leading up to this point, and what we're asking the council to consider tonight is to enter into this agreement with Friesen Nichols to make that logical step forward, so we can continue to make progress in improving some of the known storm drainage areas in our community, specifically Timber Ridge and the Fresh Meadow neighborhood, and having some discussion with Kelly Dillard, who you have all gotten to know during the study phase. She has agreed to include language in the proposed contract that would allow for a public meeting, one public meeting within the stated costs that we've already, that have been identified for each of those projects. I'm not putting any words in your mouth, am I? It would be staff's recommendation to approve these projects so we can continue to move forward. As you know, that as we continue to move forward, debt issuance using storm drainage fees will be necessary to pay for these projects. For the design, we can certainly use our storm drainage fund today in order to do that, and that's what we budgeted for.
Okay, I just have a clarification. One meeting with residents. Wonder if we should get there and that's not enough. What then happens in terms of payment and cost to the town or to the project?
You want to address that?
The way that would typically work is that kind of a standard design includes a point at which, before the design is finalized, you meet with the impacted stakeholders, show them the proposed improvements, and gather their input. If at the time additional meetings are required and it's anticipated that those would be a significant amount of work, I would meet with staff and say, hey, it looks like this is outside of our scope. It looks like it's going to be about X dollars. And then we would talk about, is that necessary? You know, is that a reasonable cost? We basically would go into a negotiation for a contract amendment. But, and I think you guys know me and know that I'm pretty fair with you. If it's a few short hours, I'm not going to come back and ask for a contract amendment. Now, if it looks like it's going to be a series of meetings and lots of hours for us to prepare exhibits, to prepare calculations, then we would talk about it. But the standard neighborhood meeting is really part of a design effort that we do most of the time.
Thank you.
Kelly, just for clarification, y'all are an engineering firm. Y'all do the design. You
Yes,
don't
sir.
actually do the construction, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. The way that the state law works is that a registered professional engineer designs civil construction improvements, and then when a public entity such as yourself pays for those, they're required legally to go out for advertised bids. Then we received those bids, closed sealed bids, and we take the lowest bidder. Usually we'll put stipulations on it to say that it needs to be a contractor who has certain number of years of experience and can show that they've done this type of work. So there are some caveats to it, but mostly it's a low bid effort.
Okay, so as our contracted engineering firm, what you would do would be to oversee the construction, make sure it's meeting all the specs and et
Yes,
cetera.
sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to correct the record for one small statement. It's the lowest qualified bidder,
There we go.
Right.
not just the lowest bidder.
Which is kind of the process I was describing without saying it correctly.
And one of the things I was trying to understand when I was reading through it is your person is a project manager on it,
Yes.
but we also would have a project manager on it. Is that true?
Generally, and everybody knows Ed Helton, and he generally, for all of our capital improvement projects, he's on the scene making sure everybody's doing exactly what we anticipated.
So your project manager is going to build the schedule, handle the documentation, and then I'm just trying to understand the two roles. and how
Right, the way
works.
that works. So typically the way that we're set up is that you would have a person who actually kind of performs the design, puts the plan sheets together, writes the technical specifications, works with a CAD designer to put them all in the computer and get them looking right. Make sure that you are on schedule, on budget, and basically do day-to-day running. And that is Jeff Thomas. And Jeff is with me tonight. Jeff has had 20-plus years of experience doing that kind of work in his career. I continue to be closely involved with your community, and Jeff and I will be working hand in hand on this. He will have the day-to-day oversight to make sure that it goes on. Really, no part of the technical elements of this will leave Friesen Nichols without my direct review and approval.
Okay, but the piece I was trying to understand is the relationship between, like, he's going to handle day to day, but he's not going to be here every day.
No,
correct?
ma'am.
That's where our person needs to come in.
So the way that typically works is you'll we do work and put together a set of plan sheets. In the bad old days, they were 24 by 36. Now, usually we make them 11 by 17, and we'll prepare a set of drawings that we call a 50% set. We get about halfway through. The drawings mostly show how you would build the drainage improvements that we're looking at. We print those plans out and come and see the town. And the way those have worked in the past, I would imagine I'll be meeting with not only Ed, but Stephen and Mike and possibly Carolyn. We've done a lot of kind of coordination on these things together.
I'm sorry, I did make my question clear. In the construction phase.
Oh, in the construction phase.
Mayor,
Okay.
maybe think of it this way. During the roundabout construction, Tingnall and Perkins was our engineering firm, and they're there designing the roundabout, and they're there periodically to check the work, to work with the contractor. But Ed and David are there every day for long hours of the day, and there are scheduled meetings that they're there, and they're the point people for Tingnall and Perkins.
Okay.
But Ed, on a day-to-day basis, is there every day. But they're there periodically, either once a week or a couple times a week, or maybe they're there every day, just depending on what phase of the project and what work is going on.
Thank you.
And that, you may be asking about the language that's in the contract. Is that kind of what you're looking for? What
Well-
services we would do based on what's in the
No, I
contract?
was just trying to understand your project manager versus our project manager, just wanting to make sure we were covered and how it works.
Our project manager is largely responsible for design. And then, like Stephen is saying, there's the occasional construction visit and oversight, and then they work closely with the day-to-day person who's on site, Ed Helton in this case.
So for the construction phase, I got it. We manage the construction, you're managing that the construction meets the design.
And processing payment requests and
Yes.
making sure that everything is done according to the contract. You know, to pick up on Stephen's analogy, Kelly would be the Tom Rutledge of the roundabout. Jeff would be the Mike Wilson of the roundabout. And Jeff would be the day-to-day functioning.
Okay,
If Ed or David had an issue with the contractor, they'd pick up the phone and say, Jeff, we got an issue, and get that resolved before anything else moves.
Okay,
Okay?
just wanted to make sure I understood the relationship.
That's a question, and I have a question.
Who had oh, Bill, I'm sorry.
I have a question concerning the design. I was wondering how locked in you are on the design and how much data you have to support that design
Right.
requirement.
In thinking about that a little bit, where we are right now is a concept level where we have run computer programs that show for your town design criteria about the amount of water you require to be handled for any given rain event. We've run computer models that show how big, what size the pipes need to be in terms of diameter. And we've done that with a basic concept alignment. And then we've shown that as one line on an exhibit at a really big scale. So that's what we call concept exhibits. That's really even ahead of preliminary design. So what I think that you may be asking about is when you get into the specifics of exactly laying out a pipe as it's going to be constructed, that's in preliminary design, which is our first phase. Once we get to that point, we lay it out with design survey that shows where everything is, both above ground that might be in the path of proposed construction and also underground. And then we kind of do a value engineering to look at, are we in the right spot? Do we need to change the alignment a little bit? Have we minimized the impact to the surrounding area? So that really is the first step in a preliminary design. We're not there yet. We really were only looking at what size in a general location would we want to put our proposed improvements? We haven't begun to look at how do we minimize the impact to existing surroundings.
Well, I was basically concerned with that. My basic concern was whether there was in some areas a need for what has been designed, or
Right.
if perhaps, speaking of the one where the swale might pick up the rain issue or the water
Yes.
issue. And the other one is over, a specific issue over on Skyline.
Yes, sir.
I
So
was-
the sizes of the pipes
Mhm.
meet your design criteria, which again, you guys have a document that says we're to pick up a 100-year storm and it has to be contained within the right of way. A 5-year storm can only come so far out into the road before it needs to be picked up by inlets.
Okay.
So we've run computer models that show us, and then we laid them out, what those sizes need to be, and what's on the study that we did represents that calculated required size based on your ordinance.
But not additional inlets or resizing of inlets or anything like that at this point.
We have some additional inlets put in there based on your design criteria, and I'm not sure where they are without looking real closely.
The other one was over on Skyline Drive.
Yes, sir.
And it's just a basic design question I have at this point. We have a 30-inch line that's going to come down that goes into a 33-inch that is going to be replaced with a 36 and tee into another 36, but in this case, we're going to extend the line on past and go a couple houses on down the street and then come back onto the other, come back down and go into drainage. And I just wonder about value engineering. The requirement for the 36-inch pipe, if we're not adding additional inlets down that other way, why are we going down the street, tearing it up, and continuing around the corner?
So presently, there's an outfall that's a 36-inch line.
Yes.
And it is not functioning as intended. It over time has dropped such that flow can't easily and efficiently get out, and sometimes it holds water in the sag. So that line really needs to be replaced. It's not functioning appropriately. And our discussion with the town was that we really didn't want to have to do construction in between two properties, that it would be better to go in a public right-of-way so that we wouldn't disrupt those homes. And so we've proposed to take that required outfall and come on down the street and around the corner so that we're not having to work right in there in between those two homes.
We're going to cut up a street.
I hear what you're saying, but I could probably, for the cost of the additional piping, could probably pay those homeowners a significant amount to leave their houses for a couple of weeks while the property was done.
And I mean, that's definitely
just
something that
on
we can
downstream.
consider, yes. Mm-hmm.
I think what I've heard you say, however, is that you're in preliminary planning, and this will give residents who currently have concerns an opportunity to hear more and very specifically what you will do based on your findings and your engineering versus making assumptions today what you're going to do.
Yes, ma'am. Especially in particular in relation to things that are going to be removed or impacted.
Yes.
Trees, vegetation, utility lines, paving.
Sizes, everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We're not at a point where we even know what all's out there to know what we need to miss.
Thank you.
I want to go back to Jeanette's original question about the meetings. I'm wondering, and I appreciate the fact that you said if an hour here, an hour there, you're not going to nickel and dime. Would it be wise of us to go ahead in the contract say we would like maybe 3 meetings, and if we don't need 3 meetings, then we do a refund or something like that? I don't know.
I don't know that they would agree to 3. I mean, that's.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there.
So the way that it is set up right now, we have a lump sum contract with you for a certain amount of money based on the effort that we know that it will take us to do a design, and that would include 1 meeting with your community.
Right.
If you want us to include 3 meetings, we could set it up so that we put them in there and don't bill you for that piece unless we do it, but it would change the amount that's presently under consideration.
I would prefer to come back with a contract amendment if the need arises.
If that's easy enough, that's fine.
Because there is a change order process in there.
Okay.
Did we have anybody to speak on this?
Hmm?
Do we have
Yeah.
anyone to
No.
speak? Okay.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Do we have a
Okay,
mo-
I'd make a motion, Madam Mayor, that we, let me get the right one here, that we approve the professional services agreement between the town and Freeze and Nichols for engineering services related to Fresh Meadows and Timber Ridge drainage projects, and authorize the town manager, his designee, to execute all necessary documents.
And can you add that will be clarified to include the one meeting? Because that isn't in the original document right now.
To include one meeting with the homeowners
Per project.
Per project, yeah.
per project.
Thanks.
Second.
All right. The motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor? Okay, we're good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Okay, item 22, consider and take appropriate action regarding the first modification to the Canterbury Hills Phase 1A subdividers agreement by and between the town and BDMR Development, authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents. Ms. Huggins?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Canterbury Hills Phase 1A is the gated subdivision, which is part of Water's Edge at Hogan's Glen. This modification is to clarify the difference between the construction costs listed in the subdividers agreement and the dollar amount of the bonds. This is a gated subdivision, so there are private streets. The subdividers agreement includes both public and private streets. The bonds will cover only the public streets. The original subdividers agreement listed the construction costs as $531,100.59. The bonds will cover $428,007.40. The subdividers agreement covers the inspection costs because both, whether public or private, the streets are built to the town standards, and so we inspect. And so the subdividers agreement needed to cover the developer's costs and the inspection fees for building those streets to town standards and inspecting them. But the bonds will only cover the public streets, and so thus the difference. This modification will provide the paper trail for future questions regarding the difference in the two amounts.
Who covers the private streets?
The HOA.
The HOA picks that up, and that's traditionally the way it's done.
Yes, sir.
And there's a bond. Is there a bond then for the HOA?
Lance Proctor, Leonard Development, 520 Central Parkway East, Plano, Texas. I can answer that question. If you repeat it again, please.
Is there then, if there's a bond for the public streets to ensure the development, is there likewise a bond for the HOA for the private streets?
Yes, but it's directly bonded to the Homeowners
HOA.
Association.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that people were protected.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Any question or a motion? Okay, does somebody want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion.
You're good at it.
That we approve the first modification of Water's Edge at Hogan Glen. I'm sorry, the first modification of Canterbury Hills Phase 1A subdividers agreement by and between the town and BDMR Development, and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Councilman Mayer, seconded by Councilman Schrader. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Item number 23 is the same thing for Phase 2B2. I have to read the whole thing. Okay, consider and take appropriate action regarding the first modification to the Water's Edge at Hogan's Glen Phase 2B2 subdividers agreement by and between the town and MR Development LLC and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents. And this is the same situation, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Bill?
Mayor, I move to approve the first modification to Water's Edge at Hogan's Glen Phase 2B-2 subdividers agreement by and between the town and BDMR Development LLC and authorizing the mayor or her designee to execute all necessary documents.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made by Councilman Rose, seconded by Councilman Schrader. All those in favor? Okay, we're good. Thank you. Item number 24, consider and take appropriate action regarding an ordinance of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, amending the fiscal year 2012-13 budget of the Town of Trophy Club, budget amendment number 1, making a transfer of appropriations in accordance with the town charter for the purchase of decorations for the roundabout and providing an effective date. Mr. Sly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. What we're asking you to consider tonight is, by virtue of the fact that the Denton County Sheriff has agreed to provide asset and forfeiture dollars to many of the local smaller police departments within Denton County as he's set to retire. They collect these monies over time. You know, when they get a drug bust, they may get cash or cars or boats or whatever they happen to be hauling at the time when they're stopped. And they seize this property and in turn sell it, make money, and that money goes into a separate account that is used specifically for policing activities. And the county sheriff has decided to ferret those dollars out, and as a consequence, we came in. We obviously didn't know that this was going to happen, but as a result, we're going to get about a $23,000 windfall that our police chief has agreed to use against an existing line item. As you recall, in the budget sessions, there was $45,000 set aside for upgrade video equipment, both internal to the police station and the individual video cameras and car cameras that we have. We now can apply those asset and forfeiture dollars to that. The chief has agreed to do that. And that freed up dollars that we were able then to go out and start planning for upgrading our community's seasonal decorations, some of which have already been spent at the roundabout. I would be remiss in saying that a lot of what is at the roundabout today is by virtue of the Trophy Club Women's Club Garden Club. That's a mouthful, but that's who it was, who provided $2,000 toward the purchase of those particular thank you, decorations. And what we're intending to do is address the entire community with updated Christmas decorations. Those of you who have been here over the years have seen those wreaths as an example on top of the light poles. And they used to be lit. They're no longer lit because that required a pole attachment from Encore that we can't gain from. So we've got to actually put lighted Christmas decorations on a metered loop somehow because street lights are not. So you don't see them lit this year. We can't do that. You know, and if you think about it, you might think, well, you know, it's a light pole. You know, how much power does that draw? Well, when you start canvassing the entire area that Encore services, and they allow everybody to do the same thing, all of a sudden you're talking about a significant amount of money. So that's why we can't do that. It's got to be a metered service. What's down at the roundabout is, and therefore we can do that. But we're going to make a concerted effort to update seasonal decorations, and we were able to do that as a result of this surplus, this windfall that came through by way of the Denton County, and from what the Garden Club ladies were able to provide. So we would ask you to consider this budget amendment, allowing us to spend upwards of $20,000 toward seasonal decorations.
Could we possibly alter this here and indicate that it's seasonal decorations for the town instead of just for the roundabout? We didn't spend $20,000 in that roundabout at this
We
point.
did not. It is intended for the entire town. There are some other things that we would like to do to the roundabout, but that's for future consideration and discussion. I had a little bit of roundabout on the brain this past week or two.
Did that include, what were some of the decorations it included? That-
To date,
A tree?
well, the live tree and the decorations of the live tree certainly was paid for with public monies. And that's a story in and of itself, and I don't want to.
No.
But I can't articulate the individual line items that we've already paid for, but we have not spent $20,000 on Christmas
Oh,
decorations.
good.
yet.
That's what I wanted to know.
We're working with the beautification committee and the
Okay.
Trophy Club Women's Club to kind of plan for a phased approach to updating the entire town's decorations.
All right. So this is a little savings for decorations.
Right, we're not going to save it. We're
I
going
know,
to.
but it's a little
And by the way, commercial Christmas decorations
Are
are not.
very
You don't go out to Home Depot
No.
or Lowe's or
No, no,
someplace to get them. I mean, they are very expensive.
They are expensive
But they're the least expensive
after Christmas.
after Christmas in the springtime. These guys, they know how to market themselves, and they go out, and so we want to be prepared to be able to jump on and get the biggest bang for our
Good.
buck
Okay,
moving
excellent.
forward.
Good. And I do think, by the way, the women's club decorations, they were beautiful.
They really are.
And they'll have
done with the roundabout.
And they'll have
along
some
with the
more to
tree.
contribute next year.
Okay. Any other questions or a motion?
Mayor, I'd move to approve an ordinance of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, amending the FY 2012-2013 budget of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, making a transfer of appropriations in accordance with the town charter for the purchase of decorations for the
Seasonal decorations
seasonal
for the town.
decorations for the town, and providing an effective date.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion's been made by Councilman Tiffany, seconded by Councilman Rose. Is there any other discussion?
I'd like to point out in the attachment, budget amendment number 1 attachment, the expenditure is specified as street median property maintenance.
Right.
So it's not specifically designated to the roundabout.
At the summary level.
Oh, yeah.
In the
Right.
yeah.
In the budget, the budget amendment.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, we're good. Okay, number 25, consider and take appropriate action regarding a resolution of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, authorizing the purchase of an outdoor warning siren for the northern part of the town from American Communications, finding that American Communications qualifies as the sole source supplier of an outdoor warning siren that is compatible with the town's existing outdoor warning system, authorizing the town manager or his designee to take such action and execute such documents as necessary to effectuate the purchase, and providing an effective date. Chief Thomas?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. What you see in front of you is a component of our existing early warning system, our outdoor warning system for impending danger, weather, anything else. This is just another component that matches with the two systems, which when we make the address, it reaches all three towers at the same time. It's a Wheelan engineering product, and because of the price, we had to go back with them with a sole source agreement. So.
The sole source being, just for clarification for people, that's because we're not going for bid because there's only one provider of this that's consistent with the ones we have that fits together.
Exactly.
I noticed in there, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the level of capability of our siren compared to, I saw in here internet usage and da-da-da-da-da. Does ours do that?
Exactly. Well, not internet. This system we have is we can do a recorded message. We can hit the siren and it gives us an early warning for a tornado or thunderstorms or hail or whatever. But we can also get on there in voice. We can tell the schools that there's been a lockdown in the neighborhood and we haven't keep everybody in and stuff like that. So it's pretty much just a.
It's not what you consider a state of the art.
Yes, ma'am.
It is
a state of the art. Yes.
Okay, that's one.
If I could though, I want to remind everybody, it is an outdoor early warning system.
Exactly.
If you don't hear it in your living room while you're watching the television, it's not intended for that.
Right.
Yeah,
It's an outdoor early warning system.
And also the addition to this siren also helps with our trail system. That's one of the big things.
That's what I was
the
just
northern part of the trail system, the school, the park itself, reaching out to the people that are outside and don't, are not close to television or a radio or.
Where's it going to be located?
Where's the placement?
Freedom Park.
We're going to put a pole up in the dog park.
Okay.
Yeah, the dog park.
That
Why
keeps
not?
us from buying a piece of property, whatever. It's the same system we have right now.
Already
It's
has a pole there.
it look identical to the other two poles, concrete pole with the sirens on top of it. So.
And I think it's really good to have it up to the north there. And I mean, that covers the golf course as well and as the park and the trails, which are all places where people may be out of doors.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2012-31.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilman Rose, seconded by Councilman Mayer. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Thank you. All right.
It's going to drive the dogs nuts when it goes off. It's going to drive the dogs nuts when it goes off.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Good point. Well, it's not that high pitched.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
People can hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. I read a whole thing recently about the different levels of what people can hear. Anyway, consider and take appropriate action regarding the following resolutions affecting the appointment of residents to various town boards and commissions. A resolution, do we want to do these separately, or resolution repealing resolution number 2009-4 and 2010-23 and appointing one resident to serve as the ASA liaison, Americans Supporting Americans, and providing an effective date. And B, a resolution amending Resolution 2012-26, appointing citizens to serve on various boards and commissions by appointing one resident to serve on the Citizens Financial Advisory Board and providing an effective date. Mr. Sly.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we have been soliciting our community for an American Supporting Americans liaison for the better part of 3 to 4 months. I am pleased to announce this evening that a newer resident of our community, active duty Naval Commander Tim Gamache, has stepped up to the plate and has volunteered to take on that role as the liaison to ASA. And we have already kind of presupposed that the council would be very anxious to get him appointed, and we've got a meeting scheduled with Wanda Franklin to kind of get his bearings about what ASA is all about and what we've done in the past and the kinds of things that we might be able to do in the future. And Commander Gamache is in our audience. If you'd like to meet him, Tim, you want to step up to the podium and introduce yourself?
Madam Mayor, Council. I am Commander Tim Gamache. I'm a 23-year veteran naval aviator, deployed multiple times, most recently in 2008, 2009. So given this opportunity, if we have an adopted unit, I'd be honored to lead the way in providing them what they need while they're deployed, or when they're not deployed when they're serving our country. So I'd be happy to take this appointment.
Thank you.
Would you spell your name, please?
It's G-A-M-A-C-H-E.
I think she was the first name. No.
T-I-M.
Commander. He answers to Commander.
I think you'll find,
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard, a lot of support in the community. It just needed a leader, so.
Yes, ma'am. I volunteered at the Wounded Warriors golf tournament, so I've seen how the town comes out for our service members. So.
Thank you.
Commander, we thank you for your service, both to the country and to the town. I think it's a great testament to military personnel that they always step up. And as a former Navy guy, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'd like to, I'm honored to move the adoption of resolution 2012-32.
I'll second that.
Okay, that's for the SA one?
Yes.
Yes. All right, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Got it. Thank you so much. Okay, item B, a resolution, I read item B, so the citizens should serve on the various boards, including one resident on the Citizens Financial Advisory Board. Mr. Sly.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to kick it to
Oh,
our finance director.
I'm sorry, Mike.
The Citizens Financial Advisory Board met last Tuesday, and selected Neil Justice as their recommendation to fill the vacancy for the board. And we had, I believe it was 5 or 6 applicants that night, so we had a lot to choose from. And Tim also happened to be one of the applicants. The board was actually pretty disappointed that they felt that Tim could be used in other areas that the town needed at the time. So that was their recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I just want to mention that I am very grateful and very impressed at the people that have stepped up for our committees. You know, we've added a lot of new positions, and it's just amazing the amount of talent that we have available in this town. Available and where people are willing to share that talent. Okay, do I have a motion? It's tough, guys, I know, but
Everybody's being quiet.
Glenn, come on, you haven't made any motions.
Glenn, it's your turn.
I was back in the other
No,
section.
Glenn. Glenn.
Oh, go ahead, Glenn. You've been quiet tonight.
I have to find it.
Hold on, I'm
Hold
gonna
him
help you
down.
out here. You're on B, yeah, there you go.
Mayor, make a motion to approve resolution 20-12-33.
Yes.
I believe this is the one, right? Under CFAM, it's the annual amendments.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second that.
All
I
right.
want to make sure I have my language right.
You got it.
I'm sorry.
Have the right motion. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, we're good. And one more. Item 27, consider and take appropriate action regarding a resolution of the Town of Trophy Club, Texas, authorizing the creation of a temporary board of directors for the proposed Trophy Club Crime Control and Prevention District, and appointing 7 residents to serve as temporary directors of the board, setting forth objectives for the temporary board and providing an effective date. This board is intended to actually create the plan for what we want to do with the crime control district, in hopes that we will be ready to present that for election, for the election in May. So, and again, we've had some excellent candidates. Yeah, really. Mr. Sly.
We do need to fill one, in your attached
Right.
resolution, there was a 7th member. I had the fortunate experience of being able to interview both. There were 2 additional applicants. Chief would typically have done that, but he was busy in the hunting season on Friday, so he wasn't available. As you've already said, the quality of the candidates was just, we couldn't go wrong. with either the last two candidates to fill that one position. One candidate, they were both had strong financial background, but one of them also had development background. And as you know, the PD has got some significant issues ahead of it in the very near future, and we felt like the applicant that had the development background could be have some additional talents they could bring to that board. So with that, we would like to include Mr. Brent Card as the 7th member of this temporary CCPD board to be included in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. The page on me. All right.
And for the record, Mayor, I'll just read the 7 members.
Please.
That would be Paul Glowacki, Dina Boudreau, Christopher Davis, James J. Isherwood, J.J. Isherwood, Timothy Gamache, Adam Broyles, and Brent Card are the 7 members.
Great.
We anticipate an organizational meeting December 19th. They all have been told that we've got a lot of work to get done between now and the end of February, at which point the election needs to be called for the May election deadline is the end of February.
Mike, is this one of those boards where we're going to need a council liaison?
Eventually, you may want to consider doing that. At this point, all they're charged with is developing a 2-year plan and a 2-year financial plan to present to the council in February, to subsequently call the election in May to create the CCPD, and that would only presuppose that the EDC 4A board is extinguished at that same election.
Okay. So we would need a point on that.
Mayor, I move to approve Resolution 2012-34 with the addition of Brent Card.
Second.
The motion's been made by Councilman Rose, seconded by Councilman Schrader. All those in favor? Thank you, and thank you, all of you, or all of those who are here for stepping up to participate. Okay, item number 28, consider and take appropriate action regarding the adoption of a new logo for the town of Trophy Club. As you all know, April is something that she has spearheaded for a long time, and she has a personal emergency.
Mayor, can we move this to the next council meeting?
Was going to be my suggestion. That's exactly.
You need a motion to refer it to the next council meeting.
I'll make a motion to refer item 28, consider and take appropriate action regarding the adoption of a new town logo till our next council meeting.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
So you need to change that to a future council meeting versus being specific.
We would have been prepared had April not been called away.
So we can say next. You think it's okay?
We need to.
We'll get it
need to
agenda.
deal with it.
We'll put it on the agenda and.
Okay.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, good. Okay, item number 29, consider and take appropriate action regarding financial and variance report dated October 2012. Michael? Or Director Aguilera? For the length of this agenda, we're getting.
It's those 7 consent agenda items. 17. I looked at that. Executive session.
Madam Mayor and Council, for the October financials, not a lot of activity to report. It's very early in the year. Obviously, we had some permitting revenue as far as revenues go for the general fund. As far as categories go, you may have seen a blip on the charges for fees category, and that is associated with a reimbursement for administrative services that the town provided to the Public Improvement District. We were able to bill the Public Improvement District for 5 years worth of administrative services, and that was received in this fiscal year. That was not a budgeted item, so that was a nice thing that we were hoping to get. As far as intergovernmental revenues, you see a big zero there. Obviously, the CMO contract is still being negotiated. That's where the CMO revenue would have been associated, and there's nothing there yet. And as far as expenses go, a couple of purchases were made in information services. We tried to make the purchase in last year, but those items were not received until the current fiscal year, so I was not able to back it to last year, so it had to hit the current fiscal year. Additionally, we paid our, as we did last year, a workers' comp and insurance for property, all at the beginning of the year to take advantage of an early payment discount, and we did that. So that's why you see the large increase in expenditures for facilities management. That's where we house. That's the department that houses our property insurance and our, not necessarily work comp, but our property insurance. So that's a big piece of their budget. And I didn't have anything else to mention. Any questions? I can answer some questions.
I have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question. Okay, we know that we have a retail store in Trophy Club that has left our left the. So what is that going to do to our sales tax? Anything?
Well, when there's a lapse, obviously, Stephen kind of heads over our economic development, but, when there's no sales done, then yes, it does affect our sales tax revenue.
I mean, but what did they contribute last year?
I'd have to pull the
don't
numbers
know.
for you. I don't know off the top of my head, but I could pull that for you and find out. We have requested the confidentiality report. We should be getting it in the next couple days. We recently returned from the conference, the GFOAT conference, and we met with some finance directors in Cedar Park who are very good at taking that data and doing some pivot tables. So we have a meeting with a good friend of mine from Cedar Park who's going to walk us through that so that we can take the data and use it a little bit easier. Kristen's got a call in with them to get some training on it. So hopefully going forward, we'll be able to give you some data with regards to the confidentiality report. Mike's been requesting it for some time, so we'll be getting more detailed data for you.
If you're looking at just pivot tables, I can help you with that too. I do a lot of
Appreciate
work
it.
with pivot tables.
Appreciate it.
Do you have a number offhand how much was saved by the early payment? for insurance?
It was 2% on the entire bill, so I want to say the entire. Hold on 1 second. Let's see.
Round number would be fine.
I was thinking it.
No, he was talking.
No, I'm
were
talking about
the-
savings on the
He's talking
insurance
about-
for the early payment.
Yeah.
When we look at those discounts, obviously the decision is what kind of money can we get in our investment returns versus what kind of money we can save
Yes.
taking the discount. And in today's world, just about every opportunity we can to take a discount, we will.
Yeah.
With the interest rate as low as it is, that makes a lot of sense. Okay.
Oops.
Sorry.
Well, if
I
you
want to
look
say
at the-
I want to say it was about. Let's see, it was a few $1,000s.
Okay.
Let's see.
We can get you
Yeah,
better
I'll
than
look
a
it up for
ballpark
you.
number.
2 or 20.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions? And does anyone make a motion to approve the report?
I'll make a motion to approve the financial and variance report dated October 2012.
Okay, the motion was made by Councilman Schrader, seconded by Councilman Strother. All those in favor? Okay, we're good. All right, Town Council liaison updates. Excuse me, Charter Review Commission, Councilmember Tiffany.
Okay, what I'd like to do is report to the council as to the procedures of going forward. Tomorrow evening, the commission will be meeting to look at the written propositions and review those. And then the next step will be, and this is as of our last meeting. It could change, but this is proposed. Proposed workshop with the council on January the 7th, our next meeting. And then the third step will be a public hearing early in January, hopefully within that week, maybe the 10th. And then the fourth step will be taking input from the public, putting it back together, and presenting it back to the council, allowing the council to tweak, add, change, and time to call an election by March the 5th. That's when we have to call an election by March 5th. So that will give the council time to do what they want to do with recommended propositions. Does that sound good? Workshops. That's what will be dedicated on to council meetings. And I want to just say, I have to tell you that I think Mr. Stotts has done a great job in managing the team, and there's been wonderful input. We have 3 lawyers on this on this committee, and I know, and we have 3 people who are past members of the Charter Commission, and Mike has done a great job in lending town municipality input, and it's just been a real nice working team. I think the council did a really good job of putting together good members.
Thank you. Okay, the November 13th Parks and Recreation meeting.
So I'm going to issue 1,000 apologies. I lost my notes. Maybe at the TML conference, I'm not sure.
I heard about that TML conference.
I will say this from memory. The meeting was only an hour long, so there wasn't a whole lot covered. They did welcome a new board member. Haley Little is a new member on the Parks and Rec board. Great addition to the board. A lot of talk was done about the cleanup at Linear Park, what happened there. Some of the prep work for the Christmas decorations was talked about, how things were going to be laid out and where resources were coming from for the Christmas decorations around town. And then lastly, as I mentioned, it's a short meeting, about an hour. They did decide not to meet in December. A lot of people are going to be missing for holiday and travel and other commitments, so they decided not to meet in the month of December. We will reconvene in January for Parks and Rec.
Thank you.
If I can just add one thing, I do think that there was some discussion about what they wanted to do related to the playground facility at the end of Trophy Club Drive and between neighborhoods 6 and 8.
Discussion, but no decisions.
No decisions, but they were certainly speaking very favorably about matching the developer $40,000 to enhance that facility, because, as you know, the NEOS system replaced the outdated toddler playground, and we've had some feedback from toddler moms and dads that they would really like an outlet that way. So I think that's being received much more favorably, and I would anticipate that that board take that issue up in detail in January.
Good, thank you.
Which I guess I do have a question. Have they talked about the usage of the NEO facility?
I mean, they haven't given any raw numbers. I would say how many people are being using it, but
No.
I haven't heard much discussion
Okay.
on it. I can definitely bring that up at the next
I do.
meeting.
Be interesting.
Okay. November 19th EDC 4B.
Sorry, I'm having 3 conversations at one time. The EDC did meet on the 19th. It was a fairly short meeting. They discussed renewing and extending the contract with Catalyst Commercial, and my best recall on that is there was considerable discussion on that, and Stephen was going to get back with them and kind of fine tune their scope and what are we getting for the services, basically,
Yeah.
on that process. That being said, that group was at ICSC. Got feedback on that. Again, Trophy Club is, I guess, the biggest news is we are on the map now. People know where we're at, so that's that helps. They did get a update on the logo and the website development. We're not there yet, but it's the website's making progress, but obviously the logo ties into that, and they won't want to get it finalized. Update on financials, and then Stephen gave a pretty good report of kind of what's happening around here, and there are several things, I guess, in the works still. So obviously we've got some changes going on down at the plaza with the workout facility shifting, and which is going to free up other space. There's other folks that are interested in that one. I think that they did announce that our yogurt shop has at least officially open now and is in business. So, and then there was some discussion regarding the working with Roanoke and Westlake on the painting of the bridges, and also the painting of the sound wall down by us. And I know you're furthering discussion on that, and they're not ready to paint yet. So I mean,
No, we're getting there though.
They also elected not to have a December meeting, and their next meeting is January 14th.
Thank you. The November 20th MUD 1 meeting. Councilman Rose?
Okay, the following report concerns November 20th MUD 1 regular session. For amplification and clarification, I'd ask council members and citizens review the MUD 1 meeting as scheduled on the Trophy Club Access Television or at their convenience using the online meeting replays section of the town website. We've started off by observing a presentation from the Wallace Group regarding the wastewater plant. The plant was designed for build-out for a population of 10,000 people in the town. Now they're looking at 13,000 to 14,000 in the town. The area outside of the town limits was not included in the original projections, apparently. The plant was designed for 1.75 million gallons a day, and it's now operating at 1.90 million gallons per day during peak periods. The standards of the treatment levels have become more stringent since the original construction was accomplished on the plant, and that reduces its capacity. They found that both aeration basins are at or below capacity to treat present flows. They cannot take one basin offline and meet the permit requirements to do a construction project. The original design had an air in it on a splitter box that now allows fluids to bypass that box. TCEQ wants 18 inches of freeboard on the aeration basins, and current operations under normal conditions are at 6. That's between the level of fluids and the top of the basin. TCEQ wants 18 inches. They're running normally at 6. There are tertiary filters after it comes out of the aeration basins downstream. They have 2 tertiary filters. They're inadequate for the flow. They're going to need to add another filter, is what was discussed. The pumping stations have inadequate capacity. The UV treatment system is inadequate today. And as I said, they cannot disrupt the current plant operation because you cannot treat the resulting excess wastewater. That all came out of the observations from the Wallace Group. What they did do is they approved a contract with the Wallace Group for a preliminary engineering report for wastewater treatment plant improvements in the amount of $65,000 and gave additional authority to the district manager for an additional expenditure of $74.5 thousand if required, but not to exceed $139.5 thousand. The study is anticipated to take 3 to 4 months. The projected improvements in the paperwork showed a possibility of $1.5 to $3 million cost for the improvements. A very brief comment at the board meeting, it may run between $3 and $4 million. They approved a resolution expressing intent to reimburse costs of wastewater improvement projects with bond proceeds. This allows the MUD to reimburse itself from bonds for expenses incurred prior to bond issuance. In other words, issue the bond and pay themselves back for expenses that they've incurred prior. For example, the engineering expenses. They approved funding for Harmony Park. They indicated that town manager's letter indicates funds are a reimbursement for expenses. The MUD funds will have to be taken out of their reserve system because they did not budget for it, and the reimbursement will occur as invoices are received. Roundabout sewer line replacement. The contractor's ready to go. It should be a 2-week project impacting the north lanes located about 60 to 80 foot east of the roundabout. They're doing a survey of land near the wastewater treatment plant for possible expansion. The MUD One website is up and running. They ended the town council liaison representation at the district meetings. Director Carr made the following points. The videotape's available for town council to watch meetings. He emphasized that they are a separate entity. They're not part of the town. They're not a committee of the town, and they don't need a representative. Anything that's going on should be between the town manager and district manager. Director Moss made the point that council members could attend MUD meetings and that they were not trying to restrict any attendance by town council or town staff. They approved an amendment to the rate order to increase the cost of a 1-inch meter to the actual cost, and they approved a resolution authorizing the district's participation in Texas County and District Retirement System, that's TCDRS, effective January the 1st, 2013, and authorized the district manager to execute all necessary related documents. The current cost of this move of an unfunded liability, they have to pay that cost to transition from TMRS to TCDRS. The amount of that cost was $227,486 to make this move. The cost of the unfunded liability, if spread over 20 years, which they had the ability to do moving to that system, would have been $426,079 and some cents. What they elected to do was to pay 50% of the unfunded liability up front, that's $113,743, and then pay $213,039 and some cents over 20 years for a total cost of $326,782. Now, this is my comment. By calculations, my calculations, the cost to defer the payments on the remaining 50% of $113,743 over 20 years is $99,296. They will purchase an annual license for Google Earth software. They appointed a committee to review the proposed personnel policy handbook. They purchased 2 trucks for the wastewater treatment plant and then went into executive session for about an hour for matters related to a certificate of convenience and necessity. On exit, there was no discussion or motion made. This concludes my report for the November 20th MUD 1 meeting. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Based on what you said, is our current wastewater treatment plant inadequate for our planned continued building that we're doing if they don't do anything?
All I can say is that it is currently operating at its maximum capacity. Now, I think there's a MUD director here in the audience. He might like to answer the question.
And my other question is to you, Mike. What is our obligation? The MUD is separate, I got it. But we have an obligation to the citizens to see that our wastewater is treated legally and all of that. So if this system becomes inadequate, if it's working at capacity and we continue to build houses, what is our obligation to the citizens of the town?
That obligation rests squarely with the municipal utility district. They are charged with providing for safe potable water and the collection and treatment of wastewater.
However, there is a point in time that if the plant reaches capacity, we can no longer issue permits. That
No one has approached me about that situation.
Yeah, part of the fix the timing on the fix may depend upon the type of funding they select to use. They talked about, if I remember right, 3 different types of potential funding sources. Some of those sources have a long lead time, up to like 2 years before you get the funding to do the project. That would be, I think, the worst case.
Okay,
That's my report.
all right. Thank you. Okay, item 31, Town Manager Sly's update.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know that I've been to a meeting when you've said item 31 before.
No, that's true.
And 8:30.
8:35.
At
yeah.
8:35 especially.
Come on, pretty good.
Many of you were able to attend, and I certainly thank you for attending. We had a neighborhood meeting with Churchill Downs. Those are the residents, along with a couple of other residents just outside and contiguous to Churchill Downs, who was annexed back in the 2006-7 time period, and failed to get on the appraisal district's rolls. And that issue was resolved this year and brought to the residents' attention, and we invited the appraisal district and the tax assessor to the table and had a very meaningful discussion with the residents, and I think everybody left there understanding exactly what to expect moving forward for the town. Tax year 2013 will include all of that value, as well as the value place. Believe it or not, the value place, if you'll recall, there was an annexation issue several years ago, and I don't, forgive me for the dates, but as a result, the value place,
The county line.
yeah, the county line was readjusted between Tarrant County and Denton County. The value place ended up on Westlake's tax rolls. Now, obviously, they didn't have any taxes at the time. They didn't have a tax rate, but all of that value for that building has been on the Westlake tax rolls. And I've asked the town manager if he wouldn't mind taking all the black eyes for that particular piece of property. He chose not to. And we're getting that resolved as well with the Tarrant Appraisal District. So I'm very encouraged by both of those issues. And I was very pleased with the turnout of the Churchill Downs neighborhood meeting. And the resulting information coming back has everybody has been very satisfied. I think they'll be much more satisfied when the Appraisal Review Board meets on Wednesday, which is the 12th, and verifies and finalizes what we all anticipate them to do. In which case they'll be notified, and their current tax statements will be modified accordingly. So we're just in a holding pattern until Wednesday when ARB meets. Mayor Pro Tem Struthers already talked about ICSC. I just wanted to say one thing. That was a collaborative effort between the 6 communities that participate in our chamber. And I wanted to publicly thank Stephen Seidel. He took the lead in coordinating all 6 communities. We had the best. Those of you who were there, you know, we were in a high visibility position.
Yeah, great.
And Trophy Club, among the 6 communities, I think, really showed out well. And we're poised and positioned for future economic development forums like that moving forward. We've got updated current demographics, and we are prepared and are aggressively marketing our community, and it shows. Our community development department is overrun right now. Our plate is runneth over. And, you know, both Stephen and Carolyn have come to me for help, and I'm asking them, you know, by the time we get somebody up and trained and qualified to actually help, we're looking at, a minimum 6 months down the road, and that's not going to help you today. So let's tighten the belt and let's get busy, and that's exactly what they've been doing. And as a consequence, what you're seeing on a pretty regular basis now with your agendas are community development projects moving forward, whether they're zoning actions or plating actions or site plan actions. A lot of activity is happening in our community. As Mayor Pro Tem Struthers said, Trophy Club's been found. We just had yet another developer show up today that we're really excited about, and I can't wait to report to you, but I can't talk to you because it's not calendared on the agenda. So just understand that we have got a lot going on. Our staff, I would love to be able to say our staff is slowing down for the holidays and enjoying the time with their families. That's not the case in our world. I mean, it is just, I guess it's a good problem to have. So I'm not complaining, but just understand under normal circumstances, a particular project could come in and say, Mike, we'd really like to put this on the fast track. We can't do that anymore. You're going to have to take a number and you go to the bottom of the list, and when it bubbles up, that's when you come in, because that's the level of activity we got right now. It's just amazing, and I've shared with that individually with you anyway, but lots of activity. What else am I going to talk about? Roundabout dedication and the subsequent clock tower event that happened Friday and Saturday this past weekend. Boy, if you're alive, your heart was warmed. I was really, really pleased with the dedication ceremony. I felt like we had a really good turnout, considering it was Friday afternoon or Friday evening rush hour traffic, and I was pleased that Commissioner Eads was there to help light the Christmas tree and see what it is that actually Denton County did so much to help fund, along with the developer.
And he said they're using that as a model for other
You bet.
roundabouts that are being installed.
I said that
Several
night.
different-
I said that night. I wanted to say that night that we hadn't had any accidents there, and the mayor said, "Don't you dare say that."
Yeah, that's right.
It'd be just our luck.
You get to see one.
No, but
that's a big mod.
that was actually a big issue when we started the whole roundabout thing, is that why Denton was really willing to step up, because they wanted a roundabout. They hadn't done, and they were trying to decide what projects to spend on, and when we said that we had a roundabout, they were very interested in that.
Right.
And that's why Mr. Eads came and presented to our citizens. We had a town meeting and everything. But so he's very happy. 'Cause
You haven't been at the one in Colleyville. It's down on Pleasant Run. It's about 8 feet in diameter.
And the same
There's
contractor
some pretty
built
tiny.
that. The same contractor built that one.
That little bitty one?
No, that's at Glade and Pool is the one that you're thinking of. The newest one on Pleasant Run and John McCain. I don't know who the contractor
that
is.
That little tiny thing, yeah.
Listen,
They're building really
I told you how busy community development was. The entire organization. We just ushered in a new animal control officer today. Chief is scheduling a firearm safety class for our community.
Support all
The
those
fire
guns.
department's busy putting together their citizen fire academy. We're all busy, and it's a pleasure to be a part of this organization serving this particular community. Mayor, that's all I've got.
And I have to,
And I'd like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and safe holiday season.
and I'd just like to mention, with both the roundabout dedication and the clock tower, I thought it was extremely well organized. I thought our staff did a really good job. And I got so many positive comments, both on the events and things in general from, we spent a lot of time walking around there, and it was really very positive. And people are really doing what they need to do, and it shows, and the residents are happy about it. So I think that's really cool.
Mayor, before you give your update,
Mhm.
Mike, I'm going to put you on the spot. There was an event on December 4th, on last Tuesday, that may be of interest to our council members here.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, we had our Texas Municipal League's annual conference, and I was really pleased to see that my prior community, Burke Burnett's entire council showed up. And I was anxious to introduce everybody to them, and Councilman Schrader knew that Burke Burnett was playing Byron Nelson High School in basketball on the 4th of December and issued a bet that the loser would wear the opposing team's jerseys at their next council meeting. You're not wearing jerseys from Burke Burnett tonight. And in fact, I shipped Bobcat jerseys to Burke Burnett today. So they meet next Monday, and we'll get a picture, and we'll put it up there for everybody's pleasure.
There you go.
Very
High
good.
school might like a copy too.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Okay. Item 32, mayor and council updates regarding training opportunities, et cetera. Just, you know, you all know we went to the TML conference. A lot of good information, a lot of opportunity to talk with other people, and really need to gather a lot of that together. But it's interesting. Sometimes you go to these sessions, and it may be a session on a specific topic, but one piece of something, maybe it just, you know, just things jump out at you. And there was a lot of really large number of good tips that we got on different things, and we're trying to follow up. Does anybody else want to comment on that?
I'll just say, you know, obviously that was my first TML conference, and one of the things that I liked, other than making that nice little side wager with Burke Burnett, was just the networking opportunities, meeting other people and asking them, you know, what are they doing, and how do they approach certain things, and just getting, you know, feeling my way around things, just talking to people as a new council member. That was beneficial for me. So
that is very much so. Okay, the Chamber Expo they had out at the Speedway. It was an event that was done by a number of chambers in the area. It was a regional event, and I don't know why they would have done it on a Tuesday, but you know, on a work day, it just that, you know, it got really busy later in the day. But it was good for us. We were able to use all the same material that we had at the ICSC, which was really nice material, very eye-catching. And we, interestingly, actually met with a lot of residents at the expo. And I thought that was interesting. We actually answered a lot of questions for residents who were in businesses, perhaps, that were either there visiting or had one of the other booths. In fact, that's where some of our committee candidates came from. But it was a good event, and I guess the other thing of note, you can see the list of all the things, but was the legislative breakfast, which was last Friday morning. And it was Tam Parker, who was our representative, and Kelly Hancock, who is one of the senators, a new senator, but he was a representative, and then Giovanni Capriglione, I think if I said,
good.
My New York background does some help there. He is our new representative for the Tarrant County portion. And then there was another person that I forget his name, but he wasn't one of our reps, but he was new. Ted Kraus, I think, or something like that. Matt. Okay. But one thing that came across very, very clear, there are a lot of new people in the House and the Senate. And if you watched their speaking and how they answered questions, you can tell new people, and it was really interesting. You know, there's one question everybody had this answer that sounded really good, and then Kelly Hancock said, you know, that's great, but the reality is, and the reality is that everybody wants no taxes and they want to do these things, but then they're the first ones to come along looking for an expenditure. So I think, I guess I felt a little concerned with the legislature that we were going to, you know, they talked about education and a few other things, but I don't know, just made me nervous. So, I guess that's it pretty much for the things I've had with the chamber meeting and things like that, the emergency council, but those are the meaningful ones. Or not meaningful, just the points. Anyway, items for future agendas. I have a question on that. Don't we need to have a work session for our strategies in January? So we need to put that on the, our charter says we have to define the strategies.
Manager guidance.
Yep. Which, actually, since we started with that strategy map, I think I really have appreciated the way the staff has taken that to heart and really used that to build the budget and build the other things. And I think that, you know, the council's done a lot of work on it, and we just need to update and refine it. So, does anyone have anything else for future agendas?
I think we need to add residential speed limits.
Thank you.
Okay. Good point.
Can I make a comment there now, or is that not appropriate? Okay, you can slap me on the wrist later. I've been witness to some close calls, especially in that neighborhood. And matter of fact, Connie, I think you were at a block party.
Yes, I was. I was thinking that when you said it.
Where there was a close call. Those houses, especially in that neighborhood, I'm going to guess, and don't hold me to this number, but I would guarantee you that 75% of those homes have a kid that are junior high or younger. And it may be even closer to 90%. I don't know, but it's a lot of numbers. And during the summer, there are kids everywhere. And I had the privilege of working from home, so I see it. And I've talked to several families in that area where they've actually said, I will not allow my kids to play out in my yard because I'm scared to death. That's not good.
There are limits on what you, like 20 miles an hour, you'd have to do a complete engineering study to do
Right.
that. You can go to 25.
Yeah, and that may be something we look at doing.
Well, just for an add-on, Hogan's Glen, we've had this issue for about 6 months, and we have just put in 20-mile
in
speed limits in Hogan Glen. Now,
wow.
The problem is we cannot be monitored.
True.
So, what's the consequence
Yeah.
if they're going 40?
Right.
But the speed in there is really high, because we have all these new homes now up there in Ashton Woods coming through Hogan's Glen, and pretty soon it's going to be in Castle Hills, and they're going to be coming around just like that.
And one of the things that Steve failed to mention that I think I see a lot in our neighborhood, I don't think it's Trophy Club residents necessarily that are speeding on those streets. I think it's some of our
I think it is.
You'd be surprised.
outside people coming in that are doing work that are just and maybe it's some Trophy Club residents, but I don't think it always is. A majority are probably outside Trophy Club that don't realize.
Well, you know, one of the things about the layout of Trophy Club is there are not a lot of streets. And it just so happens that the Highlands is laid out a little differently.
It is.
I said not a lot of streets and stopped, but there are not a lot of streets that go through.
Correct.
You know, on the east side of town, like Carnoustie, and I have had questions on the speed on Carnoustie with kids and everything. But you've got Carnoustie, you've got Inverness, but you don't have a lot of through streets. And that's one of the things that really helps keep it down, I think, because you've got cul-de-sacs and things like that. But it's laid out differently there, and I think that tends to be an issue. So that will go on the future agenda.
I think we could probably remove number 12.
Number 12.
Ah, very good. It's the item for America supporting Americans. We can take that off as a future.
And then at number 7,
Where's that at?
you know what it says.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Golf cart community.
We're getting close, aren't we?
And so, yes, so we're going to,
It's getting close.
we're going to,
Mike, we having that
we're going,
Getting there.
we're going to get there, right? Mike, just.
That and the
in
sign ordinance
2013,
and
we're going to get
everything
there.
else that's on here. We're getting there.
Okay.
It's somewhere on the
I
on
just
the
wanted to hear
target
it. I just wanted
radar.
to hear you say it.
Actually, number 5 could potentially come off because we're working on that, right?
Well, see, that's
Well,
how we are.
let's wait until we
Okay.
bring it to you.
All right.
I don't want to lose sight of it.
Okay, how many more we got room on that page? About 3?
Okay.
No.
Anything else?
We're done.
All right. Then we have item 34, pursuant to Texas government, we're going to take a break before this,
Yes,
by
we
the
are.
way.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to read it, but pursuant to Texas Government Code annotated subchapter 551, section 551.071, consultation with attorney. Respectively, the council will enter into executive session to consult with the town attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct, this is so convoluted, in the state bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act, specifically, A, legal advice regarding the interlocal agreement, for fire department personnel services between the town and Trophy Club Mud 1. B, legal advice regarding the interlocal agreement for contractual personnel services between the town and Trophy Club Mud 1. So do we need to take a break. Do I convene into executive session and then take a break, or?
Yep, do that.
You have to, because you have to do it in open session, so yes, go ahead and convene into it.
Okay, so we'll convene into executive session at 8:55, and we're going to take a break for a few minutes.
I know.
How about that?
Regular session at 10:04. And Mike, do you want to give us?
Yes, ma'am. We reviewed in detail with the two proposed ILAs with the MUD, one for contract services and the other for shared employees, specifically the fire department. The fire department are the only shared employees remaining. In the exhibit of the contract for services, I just want to kind of carry you through the cost breakdown of that exhibit. The exhibit totals $62,341, and that represents the remaining portion of this fiscal year for IT services, grounds maintenance, HR and payroll, and then there's some credits that we will allow for building maintenance, janitorial services, and a credit for our portion, the town's portion of the utilities of the fire department building. That includes water and all the other utilities. Okay. What this would presuppose is that upon approval of this agreement, the MUD would agree to then make the town whole through the first 25% of the year, the first quarter of the year. And what Jennifer and I have agreed to would be a total amount of $23,255.75 for services rendered during that period.
Is that taken from the original SEMO contract?
Yes,
that we
that's
all agreed on, right?
absolutely.
Okay.
Then the remaining year, the remaining 75% of the year would total $62,340. All of these costs should not be a surprise to anybody, with the exception of HR and payroll. You can see the original amount, $8,050, represented HR and payroll costs associated for the entire MUD organization, providing HR and payroll support for the first quarter. You'll see what is included in this particular agreement is an amount $7,698.27. And what I had my finance director do is look at the total HR budget for the town, and from that I excluded a line item in that budget for tuition reimbursement. We have $13,275 identified for tuition reimbursement that some of our employees were anticipating would be reimbursed for as they continue their education. Now that left and I'm just going to use round numbers, $100,000 in the HR department budget. Because we're dealing with 75% of the year, I took 75% of that, and that's obviously $75,000. And then I asked Michael, I said, take a look at what all of the total full-time equivalents, FTEs, that we will have on the books come January 1st of 2013. and that includes the fire department. That's 70 FTEs, full-time equivalents. And I just did a basic math formula. It took 70 into 75,000, and it came out to a cost per FTE of $1,078.19. The agreement would stipulate that the MUD would pay for 51% of the fire component of the fire department, and the town would pay 49%. So of the 14 fire department FTEs, I took 51% of that, and it was 7.14 times that $1,078 factor would then generate that $7,698 cost for providing HR and payroll support for the 51% of the fire department's budget. Does that make sense? You're looking at me like I said something wrong.
You're telling me, just so I'm clear, I'm slow on the uptake sometimes. $855 a month, you can handle the HR and payroll services for the fire department?
For the fire component of the fire department.
For the, yeah.
For $855 a month?
Yeah. For 51% of that fire department, yes. And, you know, what we're talking about is, you know, every one of our employees that come to that have a need to you know, whether have an explanation of benefits or whatever the case is. You know, it could be workers' comp claims, or get injured on the job, or benefits claims, or whatever the case is. You know, that's what Tammy Yard does on a day-to-day basis. She provides that service. Well, I mean, I think that's the fairest way to approach this thing, is to try to determine what the cost is after you've eliminated the costs in the budget that don't pertain. Come up with that factor, and 51% of the fire department is 7.14 FTEs times that factor. I think that's a very fair, and the whole purpose of this, if you'll recall, is to get it right. I mean, there were problems with the existing ILA that we had, and the MUD, you know, put us on a 90-day notice that they want to redo it. And I think both the MUD and the town have worked diligently about coming up with agreements that we hope that the elected bodies can consider. And you know, what we want to do is get it right. If it was wrong the first time, we want to get it right. So that's how we came up to that what it totals for the remaining year for IT, HR, you know, the common areas that we maintain for them throughout the town is $62,340. That's the contract for services ILA, and it certainly would be the staff's recommendation that you approve that ILA as presented. And as I mentioned to you earlier this evening, the MUD is scheduled to hear these same agreements next Monday, and Patricia and I will both attend in the event that the directors have operational or legal questions, or how we got to where we got to tonight.
So do we need a motion for this one?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor, I'll move to approve the interlocal agreement for the contractual personnel services with...
Wait, this one is...
This is the...
The fire one, isn't it?
No, this is...
the contractual.
No.
The contractual, I'm sorry. Okay.
With MUD 1. Period.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilman Tiffany, seconded by Councilman Schrader. Is there any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Okay, so then we have the fire department one.
Yes, ma'am. The shared employee fire department ILA resembles what it is we had back in August. It's with a couple of exceptions. We have done a lot of work collectively with Jennifer and their attorney Pam Liston and Patricia and I, and we've had significant discussion with TMRS because one of the issues is that everybody wants to be comfortable with is, under this agreement, that the fire department has made it clear to the MUD board and made it clear to me. I don't know that Chief Thomas has ever made that statement to the council, but it's the fire department's desire to remain with TMRS and the town benefit structure. So I met face to face with the deputy director of TMRS a couple of weeks ago, and since then Patricia has had some ongoing dialogue with their general counsel. We have received an email from general counsel, and it happened to be that we were able to get on a phone conference at the same time that the mayor happened to be in my office. So the mayor and I and Patricia participated in a phone conference with the general counsel, and we laid out the situation as we know it to be, and general counsel gave us some stipulations, but basically said if you follow these stipulations, as far as TMRS is concerned, they qualify, otherwise qualify, and you're going to certify, Mr. Town Manager, you're going to certify at every payroll that that situation hasn't changed, and that they are town employees, and that's what this agreement stipulates, is that they are town employees. Is there something else that I need to address there, or that you can help me out with?
I mean, there are just generally two components of the employee question. And, one is the TMRS component, which is fairly narrow. It meets the requirements of their statute and their guidelines. And it does require that we certify with each payroll that they're town employees. The second part of that basically is whether or not that person is truly an employee of the town. Two different issues, but all wrapped up in the same thing. We basically can't create some fictional situation where we call somebody an employee where they're not. So it's a matter of making sure that we meet the criteria for them to be actually considered an employee. So, and I've talked to their lawyer a little bit about this, well, not just a little bit, but quite extensively about it over the last couple of years. And then recently with these negotiations about what makes an employee for employment law purposes versus do we meet TMRS requirements. And this is a full package, so those employees are getting town policies, town benefits. I believe, in talking to Pam Liston and working through these negotiations with Mike and Jennifer, I think that as it's written, it meets the criteria. It basically calls out town employees. It gives operational oversight through SOPs on firefighting services to the MUD, gives operational oversight for emergency medical services at town, but then it comes back around with personnel policies that are the towns, and that would be one of those things that we just can't really get around with an employee. It's who employs them and what policies they fall under, and just the typical standard things that you're going to do a test to see whether they're truly your employee, and we can't make a fictional situation. So TMRS sounds like it maybe is a little easier threshold to make. However, when you're certifying that payroll, you're certifying not only they're an employee for TMRS, but they're your employee. So I think this is a good compromise. I think it meets that bill of allowing, us to meet that criteria we have to meet. They get to retain their operational control over the firefighting. We maintain ours over the EMS.
How we've got this drafted now covers those two elements, right?
I believe so, yes.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the interlocal agreement for fire department personnel services between the Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 and the Town of Trophy Club.
Okay. Motion's been made by Councilman Schrader, seconded by Councilman Strother. Is there any other discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor? All right. We're good.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Adjourned.
If there was anything else.
Meeting is adjourned at 10:18.
Hey, we gotta be official about it,
Thank
right?
you.
It was like, there's my vote.